Senator Murkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Secretary General, welcome. Madam Secretary, thank you for being there in Alaska. We appreciate that focus, particularly on the very troubling issue of mental health and the rising level of suicides that we have seen throughout the Army and particularly up north. So appreciate your attention to that, and I'll have a question in that vein. But let me begin by raising the issue of your number one item listed on your unfunded priorities. This is a new multi-purpose physical fitness facility. We're kind of viewing it as an Arctic field house of sorts. I think we recognize that focusing on morale, focusing on readiness, especially in a region that is very cold and oftentimes very dark for much of the year, but it is kind of a standout figure there. $99 million for the facility is striking. So can you just provide to the committee, first of all, why you feel that this is the number one on your unfunded priority list, and really why is the price tag so high? Know that I'm going to argue for it, but I think it helps us to have a better understanding as to what exactly is required in the interior there.
I just was going to have General McConville address it, since it's the chief's unfunded list, maybe, and I can add if you like.
General?
Well, Senator, first of all, our troops' presence in Alaska is extremely important for national security, and at the same time, as you know much better than I do, it's a challenging climate for our troops up there. We want to give them the ability to be able to work out and have a physical fitness center that allows them to participate in activities 365 days a year, regardless of the weather. We've talked to the commanders up there and said, what can we do to help you? And this is what their priority was, and that's why it sits as my number one priority. I think we have to do something. We have a challenge on behavior health out there, and when we talk to commanders, they said that's what's needed. And I think the cost is just because where it's at. Right. It's challenging. Prices are going up, and we'd rather put the price. That's what they say it's going to cost to build the facility that we need, and we want to be able to do that.
And I would just add that if I'm not mistaken, I think the fitness center is also, it's going to be relatively large because there has to be an indoor track. We've got to have a track that our soldiers can train for the new combat fitness test, and so that, coupled with the high costs of material and construction, is part of the price tag issue.
Well, I appreciate you putting that on the record. We recognize that for so much of the year, it really is not safe to be training when it's 40 below. That's a little bit tough if you're trying to do miles. When we're talking about the Arctic and training in the Arctic, you have announced just last week before the Armed Services Committee very welcome news, which we appreciate, and that is the reestablishment of the 11th Airborne Division. I think this is great news. I think it's already bringing energy to our troops. We're watching daily as the kind of bulking up NATO's east flank continues with Russia, but we can't take our eyes off the fact that we have a western flank, we have a northern flank, and they all come together in the Arctic in Alaska. So welcome news. It's a great announcement. Part of my responsibility on this Appropriations Committee, though, is to make sure that we are able to fund this transformation. Can you inform the committee what actually will happen then to the strikers that are currently assigned to the 125th, whether or not they're going to go away, what the status is of the cold weather all-terrain vehicles, because again, that's going to be an investment. And then when you transform from an administrative to an operational headquarters, what might this mean in terms of resources and in terms of troops? So what we want to know is how we can help facilitate this in a manner that works best.
Certainly, Senator. Let me try to take that in turn. Yeah, we're very pleased about being able to reflag U.S. Army Alaska as the 11th Airborne Division. There won't be costs immediately associated with that particular step. We are looking at potentially taking the strikers out of Alaska, and if we have not made a final decision about that, but if we do that, we will basically take them and look at the ones that we can reuse elsewhere or basically use for parts. And then because a striker unit has a larger number of personnel associated with it, we will use those spaces to be able to increase the size of the headquarters, to go from an administrative headquarters to an operational headquarters. So really from a manning perspective, if you will, it will be about neutral. And we would be looking at basically having that division headquarters have sort of the same types of capabilities that you see in the 173rd in Italy, for example. So I think but we won't need to do, new military construction, for example, to house people at this time. So I don't think that these changes are going to have large price tags, but we will be continuing to put money in the budget for things like the CAT-Vs, for example.
Good. Well, I appreciate that, and please let us know how we can help with again, a transformation that I think is quite significant. And I think we recognize that this is going to help with the mental health, the behavioral health issues that we have spoken about when we were able to discuss the plan to surge mental health resources to Alaska in the immediate and then in the near term. So let us know again what it is that we need to do to resource that, because we know you just can't surge it up for 6 months and then take those resources away and expect all to be well in the world. My time has expired. I do want to ask, though, about why Arctic and cold weather gear continues to be on the unfunded list rather than in the base budget. I'm just reminded that we've got a battalion from the 425 that is jumping into Arctic Norway this week. And so when you think about what is happening on the ground right now, what Alaska can offer, what the Arctic force is that we need, you got to have the gear too. So hopefully we can address the Arctic gear needs as well.
Thank you, Senator Murkowski. I'm all into the cold weather gear. We have the Cold Regions Laboratory in New Hampshire, and so we definitely support that.